Welcome in, it's Juck. Appreciate you so much for joining me. Got a lot of messages. I'm hiding from the big loss. Juck committed seppuku. Radio silent. I apologize for the delay. I'm sure some of you want to come on and laugh at me, and it's true. I deserve it. I was cocky. I was arrogant. I was running my mouth. I did not commit seppuku. I've been in the hospital with Mrs. Juckster. She got a pacemaker at a really young age, and we have been had a little scare in trying to figure out why this heart that's supposed to be regulated by this pacemaker had some really high spikes in heart rate. So just been in there trying to, through a process of elimination, figure out what is the deal here. And we're not there yet because going to the hospital on the weekend, you can't really get all your tests done as you would like to. So going to be in there one more night, but I've been kicked out to take care of the dogs and give her, I guess, maybe a couple hours by herself. So I figured let's hop on and take my comeuppance, which is what you got to do. You got to take it like a man. Now, I got a lot to say about this game. Some good, some bad. Obviously, this is, my first take after the game. So forewarning, if you don't like hearing criticism of your favorite team and your favorite team wears scarlet and gray, this one, not the one for you. I'm normally a positive guy, but there was some real blunders in this game, in my opinion, and we're going to talk about them today in what might be a two-part show, depending on how long I get to blabbering. But the magnitude of this game, I'll say off the start, was huge. A lot of people were calling this thing meaningless. Nonsense, man. Nonsense. The magnitude of the Indiana story, this was the biggest game in the history of that program. As for Ohio State has more national championships than 1 versus 2 matchups, and that's what this was. This was a 1 versus 2 matchup. Ohio State's record in 1 versus 2 matchups heading into this game was 5-2. Fantastic. The times between 1 versus 2 matchups has been enormous. The first one was the 69 Rose Bowl. The Super Softs playing in the Rose Bowl beat number 2 USC. The second one, not until the 2002 season, the Fiesta Bowl was technically in 2003 on New Year's Day, where the Buckeyes beat Miami. The third one of 3 in the 2006 season, starting off with Texas beating the Longhorns, finishing the regular season, beating Michigan, and then, of course, that BCS game against Florida, which technically was in 2007. Obviously, we know the Buckeyes lost that one. And the following year, as number 1, the Buckeyes lost to LSU in that national championship game. The 7th one, 1 versus 2, was the beginning of this year. The beginning of this year when the Buckeyes beat the Longhorns 14-7. The Buckeyes number 2 in the coaches poll. That counts. And the Buckeyes roll into this one 5-2 in 1 versus 2 matchups. There's also been some people saying because this game was meaningless and looking at how Ohio State played and thinking that they didn't give their all, that maybe they were playing in this one or playing this like they had played some of those scrimmage games in essence, and pointing to a few things, about this game with some evidence or some data of that. And that's just Coper loser talk to me. That's not what happened here. Ohio State was all in. They wanted this bad, and they lost. They got beat a week after a huge win against Michigan in an undefeated regular season. The Buckeyes lost in the Big Ten championship game, and the longest winning streak in the country has been snapped at 16. And let's recognize what a hell of a ride it was. And we can do that still with hope that it's not the end of it. It's just that chapter, that specific run, 16 in a row, amazing. It's now over. And there is a new longest streak that's already at a whole lot for Indiana. I don't even know what it is, but it's a lot as they're now 13-0 this year. I guess that's it. They lost to Notre Dame to end the season last year. So they're at 13 already. Might they be able to run through and make theirs 16 by the end of this playoffs? They're certainly an amazing team. They're an amazing team. And man, it was rough to watch. That game was rough to watch. Some close games like that in big spots don't feel frustrating They feel kind of exhilarating back and forth, big highs and lows. This one just felt like a flatline frustration the whole time to me. There wasn't a whole lot of moments in the game where I was up or down. It was just a steady Eddie kind of frustrating experience the whole game is kind of how I felt through it. Now, I got to start by saying how wrong I was. I was wrong, 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 though I still can't believe it. I cannot believe that this Indiana team can line up against that Ohio State roster and do what they did to that Oregon roster, which is just man for man, dude. Man for man. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that kind of team with that kind of with where those guys come from. And Fernando Mendoza calls them a group of misfits. And like he's right. It's a group of misfits full of prospects on the other side that I've been following for years coming out of high school. Same with the kids at Oregon that make up that Oregon roster. Like dudes I've known about since they were 14 and 15 and 16 and watched them through the recruiting process and rooted for Ohio State to sign them. And then they get on campus and you work so hard to get these advantages in talent. And somehow this ragtag group of nobodies go up against this group of superstars. Some of them transferring from a school that had just been in the FBS the year prior, along with some transfer portal additions, not many of them very ballyhooed outside of Mendoza, and some holdovers from that Indiana team, from the Indiana high school pipeline of recruiting. That group of guys lined up against Oregon, and that's an incredibly talented roster, I think a top 5 roster in college football, in Ohio State, and made it look like there was no gap in talent at all. It's head scratching. It's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. We've never seen anything like it in college football. It's unbelievable. It's just like long before this game, I've said that this Indiana story is the most impressive thing that I have seen since what Dabo did at Clemson, taking a good program and making them great. A 2-time national champion, 4 national championship game appearances. It was the most incredible thing in that era. This era is vastly different. Is this that version of what Dabo did, or is this even more impressive? To me, it's now more impressive. It's now more impressive. Obviously, Dabo didn't have the luxury of doing it this way with being able to bring an entire team with him, right? He brought a lot of guys with him. Cignetti did from JMU, guys that already knew him, his whole coaching staff intact, and they were winners at JMU. They were already winning, and he brought that whole culture and installed it. Got the guys that he kept at Indiana on board quickly. In year 1, an amazing job. In year 2, turning the corner, and they are literally going into the playoffs as the number 1 seed, undefeated, and beat the 2 most talented teams in the Big Ten on their way there. It's insane. It's an insane story. That guy, his players, all of them deserve an unbelievable amount of credit. And I congratulate them and can do nothing but give them props. And I didn't enjoy it. I liked the fact that Ryan Day and Julian Sayin and everybody I've heard, I haven't listened to all the Buckeyes, but for the most part, it's mostly been credit to them. As for their fans, I will not give them any credit or respect at all. I've watched Ohio State fans take over Indiana Stadium to the tune of 70% Buckeye fans for much of my life. So look, I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. Cleveland Browns Stadium is packed with Browns fans every Sunday all my life. And that franchise is an absolute loser. So if you are a fan of Indiana, the odds are you were not a fan of Indiana and you didn't support the team for decades and decades and decades. So now, if you've just hopped on, some of you, I'm positive, were there all along. And if that's you, I'm sorry you get grouped in by all these Johnny-come-latelys who were not fans, but they are now because it's an amazing story and they're winners and they want to run around running their mouth. I can't give any of you any respect. I apologize for that. I just can't. Your team's awesome, though. They're awesome. And I am certainly not somebody who's going to sit here and say Ohio State beat themselves. That's not what happened. That is not what happened. That to me is loser talk. A man says that man was better and he beat me. That's what happened. Indiana beat Ohio State. Now, I can still say that and admit that Ohio State laid an egg, and we will talk about the many errors Ohio State made. But Indiana's coach and Indiana's team outplayed Oregon, outcoached Oregon, and they thought they were going to repeat that against Ohio State. It was a talking point coming into this game. I said it would not happen. Ohio State's coaching staff is the best in the country. The roster is the best in the country. These dudes are different. And sure enough, Curt Cignetti and his group of coaches outcoach my coach. That's what happened. Now, before we get into the issues that really grinded my gears throughout the game, of which there are many, I want to talk about the bright spots. I want to talk about the big picture, and I want to put things in proper perspective for myself, because sometimes I get to going and I want to make sure that I don't come off as someone who's, super negative or thinking this is over. It's not over. It's far from over. And I want to start with the bright spot, the Juck guys of the game. Offensively, without a doubt, man, I got a comment from somebody the other day who said, who could have ever seen this coming with Bo Jackson? Me. But it doesn't mean it's any less surprising to continue to see it, like to the level that he has. I think that this was his best game. He got out of so many tackles in the way he does it, in the balance he keeps. He adds so much value to this team. It's not even comparable how much better he is when he's making plays like that than anything we've seen out of anybody else in the backfield. And in much of college football, he's one of the very best true freshmen in the country. He is, without a doubt, the best true freshman running back in the country. And he's just a dog. Now, 1,000-yard rusher joining, where's Robert Smith? Robert Smith is somewhere back on there he is, top left hand, up there. Top corner over here. Robert Smith was the first Ohio State freshman to rush for 1,000, then Maurice Clarett, then JK, then Trey, and now Bo Jackson. Fantastic stuff out of Bo. 4.9 yards a carry, 17 carries, 83 yards, not a massive stat line, and he was under 5 yards. He averages over that. But it was a hard-fought day for Bo, and he looked like a vet out there. He looked like a guy who didn't want to let his team lose. He wanted to will them to win. And for that, once again, our guy Bo, the Juck Eye of the day. Generally, when we look at a guy who has played as good as Bo, by the Michigan game, if you got an undefeated season, your helmet is full of Buckeye leaves. This year, Bo's barely coming up the second side of the helmet. I can't stand that. I wish they would move that back. We're in the Big Ten championship. You got 1,000-yard back, and you've won. Keep in mind, you only get Buckeye leaves. Nobody gets them in a loss. You've won 12 games, and that's your star running back who's rushed for 1,000 yards, doesn't have a full helmet of Buckeye leaves after 13 games. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's changing the whole look of the playoff uniform, by the way. We're used to seeing the playoff uniform, the stars of the team have a full helmet. That is the evolution of the helmet. No, I'm getting off topic here. It's something that really bothers me. It's a recent change 2 years ago. This year, I think it has to do, now they've moved that criteria up to 83% to grade out a champion, and it's affecting the look of the uniform, which, man, the uniform looked beautiful under those lights in Indy. In that dome, the scarlet jersey just pops so much harder. It looked, man, amazing. It was amazing. Let's get to the defensive Juck Eye of the game, which without a doubt was Caden Curry. What an absolute stud, man. Playing in his home state. People taking shots at him this week. Indiana people taking shots at him for not coming to Indiana, as if anybody goes to Indiana. By the way, we got their number one player out of the state in Jaquaden Guilford this year. though they did get Jaden Williams. We could not flip Jaden Williams, an Ohio linebacker, back to the Ohio State class. Caden was amazing. Right off the rip, he had 7 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, a batted ball, but it was the first play of the game that I thought was going to be the biggest play of the game right there. Play number 1, when he hit Mendoza, and Mendoza was down the way he was down. I mean, the hit was, for one, it was the one you don't see coming. Those are always the worst. Didn't see him coming. Mendoza was in the air with his momentum heading towards Curry. And those kind of hits from a dude that big and strong are just killers, man. And the fact that he only missed 1 play after taking that hit, insane. Insane. Shows how tough he is and what a leader he is. But early in that game, what was running through my head was these Indiana fans really had the nerve to talk all this crap, and they've got Zen Mahalski, the guy responsible for the single worst individual blocking performance I've ever seen in my life at Ohio State, blocking Caden Curry. This is over. This is over, and despite that massive disadvantage, they still won the game. Sonny Styles was also fantastic, phenomenal, may have been the best game he's ever had. It was, that's a little hyperbole. He is just, when he tackles somebody now, and we've just seen him get progressively kind of bigger and stronger and add that to his game, they don't move an inch forward. Like when there's contact, and it doesn't matter if Sonny has momentum or not, when he hits him, they stop dead. And then eventually it starts to move backwards. That's when he has no momentum. He's a brick wall. He's a brick wall, and it is something to see, man. The guy is going to have such a long, great future in the NFL. It was fantastic. But his counterpart, man, has anybody seen A8? Does Arvell still play for the team? Is Arvell there? I'm really disappointed in Matt Patricia, man. In true pass rush sets, Arvell was used 3 times to rush the passer. 3 times. He had 1 tackle. He was targeted twice, gave up 2 receptions for 24 yards. I don't understand. You got the guy who people are calling the number 1 pick in the draft. You have weaponized him in all these different ways throughout the season. You shut it all down throughout the previous 5 games before the Michigan game, which we'll discuss how Ohio State played those, and I'm sure coming up this week, because I think it's a big issue. So we haven't seen him. We haven't seen much of Arvell at all. You get to this game, and 3 times in true pass rush settings, he rushed the passer. Do we want to use him as the decoy? Like, what's going on? Now, obviously, you can't harp on the defense much. They gave up 13 points. That's tremendous. But let's let the stars be the stars. What I've loved about Matt Patricia is he's put guys in possession to do what they do best and be successful. And that's just criminal to me that guy only rushed the passer 3 times. Kenyatta Jackson. What an amazing performance by Kenyatta. 2nd week in a row. He was such a load to deal with. Obviously, we all saw the ridiculous holds on Kenyatta, but I'm not going to sit here and bitch about refs. There were bad calls both ways. I think Ohio State got more of the bad calls, and I think that the Big Ten allows way too much holding going on, especially like egregious holding. Like, I mean, it's your job, and there are dudes watching that, right? What we're seeing on TV, they're watching it. That's their only job. And you let him get tackled by 2 guys, not a peep. We're not reaching for the flag here. But he was still fantastic despite all that, with 5 tackles, a sack, 4 hurries. It was so good. So another honorable mention for him and Caleb for having just a boatload of tackles and being a leader out there, man. Saw him twice ripping one of his teammates up and down for being out of position or making a bad decision, and I love that about him. But the defense bowed up. They bowed up, and still, after 13 games this year, nobody has scored 17 points on them. 16 is the max. Even if Indiana would have made that 1 missed field goal, they would have only scored 16 points. It's incredible. It's incredible. So the big picture, the perspective that I choose to have after this game, Ohio State had an undefeated season. They beat Michigan, and they're going to head into the playoffs as the 2 seed with a bye in round 1. And they've got 3 weeks with a sour taste in their mouths. And while I didn't want to lose the game at all, similar to the game last year, not the Michigan game, similar to the Oregon game. Similar to the Oregon game, when you lose a game, you find out about your team and areas that you need to improve when you play a really good opponent. And great teams find a way to improve. They find a way to improve the most after a loss. And similar to when they went out to Oregon and lost, they realized all the things that were not up to snuff, and they got them right. They got them right, not immediately. They had a bye week, a clunker against Nebraska, but when they came back out against Penn State, from then on until the game, things were right. But it was the catalyst of losing at Oregon, and that is what they are going to do with this Indiana game, I believe. There are a couple of things I don't think will get fixed because I don't think they've been addressed, and I don't think they will be addressed. But the most part, the bulk of it, it's all going to be addressed. It's all going to get better. And as far as winning these 3 games to make it to win another national championship, when we look at this field, to me, there's 3 teams. It's Ohio State, it's Indiana, and it's Georgia. Those are the 3 behemoths. We know about Indiana. Georgia looked just phenomenal against Alabama. Everything is clicking for them, and I mean everything. And they are absolutely going to be in Ohio State's way on the trip here. Ohio State is going to play the winner of Miami and Texas A&M, roll straight into Georgia, and if they make it to the national championship, probably going to be Indiana, might be Oregon. Either way, it's going to be 3 behemoths of the sport that they got to get through, whether that be Miami or A&M. 2 teams have both of them teams were at least number 2 throughout the year at some point. So it's a crazy hard path. We'll talk more about the playoffs tomorrow. And I watched the show. I mean, I think just some ridiculous stuff. You know, the funny thing was I had 2 videos set to release today that I recorded on Friday night, and they were going to release today. I had to pause them for releasing because I thought, all right, if the Penn State video I made and the other video, there weren't Ohio State videos, it's general college football videos. If they release and there's no Ohio State video after a loss, people are going to call me a punk. So I had to pause those. Luckily, I remembered they were going to release. But we got some playoff talk to have. But anyway, as far as where Ohio State sits right now, perspective-wise, not a bad spot to be in. It sucks, but it's not a bad spot at all to have that loss festering for these 3.5 weeks to get you going, to get the juices flowing. They lost the streak. They're pissed off. It is exactly the attitude you want them to have rolling into that next game. You just don't want to have to take the loss to get there, but you did, and it's over. And again, just like last year's team, now we will see what they're made of. Now all the pressure is on them. All the pressure. Will they be able to do it? We saw the 24 team. We saw what they did in a similar situation. This is not as nearly as bad, right? This is not going to feel like that felt, but it's going to be a whole lot of anger, a whole lot of angst. And will they be able to channel it and make the right decisions to move forward? I have some doubts. I have some doubts because of a few things we saw against Indiana. A few things we saw against Indiana that have been issues kind of all along. For instance, when I freaked out after 2 games against Purdue and Wisconsin, and a bunch of people said, you're an idiot, it's Purdue and Wisconsin, and we won by 20. It's not about winning when you're favored by 24 points. It's about how does that translate when you play a really good team. And the offensive line against those defenses that used a whole lot of twists and stunts was abysmal. Purdue and Wisconsin had them totally discombobulated with those. And those games were in the back half of the season where I would have expected that to be tightened up. And that's a failure by the offensive line staff crew. And it's just something that needed to be corrected. And I thought that it had gotten corrected. Against UCLA, things were great. They didn't stun or twist much. Rutgers, the same. Things were great. And then against Michigan, fantastic. Not a single pressure given up. But Michigan didn't choose to kind of follow that blueprint that Purdue and Wisconsin laid out. I wasn't sure why, but they didn't. Indiana did. Boy, did they ever. And you tip the cap to them. But again, it's an example of an issue that we saw earlier this year, right? Not long ago. Purdue and Wisconsin were in the back half of the season. We gave up 11 pressures to both of those teams, doing the same thing Indiana did. We gave up 12 pressures to Indiana. We've seen this story before. Indiana, just a little better. They were able to get home more as they get 5 sacks on Julian. They sacked him more times than, let's see. You had 9 this year. So you had 4 coming into the game. Now you got 9 total. So they sacked him more times than you had coming into the game. But when we look at the pressure stats, like they just were able to get home more. And to me, it's like you knew this was an issue. You knew specifically the right side of the line has a real tough time with it, right? We saw that already. We saw it against Rutgers, saw it against Purdue. And you still chose to roll Tegger out there because he had a good game against Michigan. Not doing that. He cannot do this. This is the thing he can't do. You knew it was coming because it's how Indiana plays, yet you rolled him out there anyway. It was terrible. Obviously, he was terrible. We'll talk more about him later. Bennett Christian, he was not good. They kept rolling him out there. I don't understand why. He gave up a sack. The whole protection of James Peoples gave up a sack, played one play, gave up a sack. Second he's given up all year out of those 9. And Julian lost the Heisman Trophy. He lost the Heisman Trophy. And the truth is, he's not as good as Fernando Mendoza at this point in his career, and that's okay. He doesn't need to be to win a national championship. He doesn't have as much experience. And this is, for the most part, he was 21 for 29 for 258. And that's not a bad stat line at all. But it felt like the second, third quarter, man, he was shook. He was lost. And he snapped out of it, which is fantastic. That's what you need him to do. But coming in and throwing a pick right off the rip is totally unacceptable. It's totally unacceptable. And this, to me, when we look at the teams that Ohio State played this year, this is why I'm so excited for next year's schedule. It takes playing teams that are close to as good as you, or better than you, or as good as you, to learn from mistakes, because other teams don't make those kind of plays. And when you play a schedule like Ohio State got saddled with this year, like I said, 5 games where you're 20 or 30 point favorites rolling into the Michigan game, you don't get to learn. He didn't get to learn much from those games. He's learned more from the Michigan and the Indiana game than he did in that 5-game stretch before, and you can throw on Ohio and Grambling on top of that as well. He learned more in these last 2 games playing good competition. And that's why next year's schedule is so exciting, because that's how you get better. That's how you get better, playing good competition that can do this to you. But still an inexcusable pick to start the game again. All in all, he was able to regain his composure. But I got to say, man, there is this thing he does where he is rolling out and he'll hold the ball looking downfield. And sometimes it'll break open and he will complete the ball. And when he does it, it's beautiful. It's a thing of beauty. Sometimes it's not there and he'll just continue to hold it and hold it and hold it, and then try to turn it up and get, 2 yards before he goes out of bounds. And it feels like he's so reluctant to just be an athlete at times. And in a game like this, when you've got the ability, and he does have the ability, you got to have the desire as a college quarterback and go take off, man. Pull it down and go get yards, especially in a game like this. Doesn't need to be called, doesn't need to be designed. But I need the quarterback in a situation like that to be a gamer, to go be a football player. And he's got it. It just needs to come out of him. It needs to come out of him. And the beauty of this is Ryan Day is now like for this, right? This was the play against Michigan that he said was his favorite play when Julian scrambled for that first down. This is a change in Ryan Day, right? It's not always been like this. But now that he's for it, I hope that this is something they talk about. And I hope that this is something that they work on with him. Like in a game like this, buddy, you got the green light, man. Get out on your horse and go get it yourself because we believe you can. And again, a big change in Ryan Day. This is something that I hope, as we talk about a lot of things that we hope they work on and just address with players and as a philosophy moving forward, this is one I want to see, man. I want to see him go be a ball player and go get that first down with his legs. Now, Mendoza on the other side, 15 for 23, 222, one touchdown, one pick. That's not a huge stat line, but he was a ball player. He got it done when it needed done. He ran when he needed to run. And after that hit to start the game, like, you know, he sealed up the Heisman Trophy, unless they want to give it to the moron down at Vanderbilt, who spent his Saturday night not watching college football, but at the UFC fight with a bunch of his buddies and just looking like a dope, man. He's just he tries so hard to be Johnny Manziel 2.0. And when you look at the evidence of what Johnny's turned out to be, not a great thing, man. It's not a great thing. I talked about Indiana's running game coming into this thing and how they have not been very good against better competition. And the Ohio State defense did exactly what I expected them to do. They held them to 3.5 yards a carry, 118 yards. That is a winning recipe. Absolutely a winning recipe. And, of course, they had just 340 yards on the day, 13 points. It's just a win by the defense. And unfortunately, when Mendoza needed it most, he was cool as a cucumber. His receivers beat Lorenzo and Jermaine in a couple of huge situations. And Mendoza put it right on the money. And when they needed it most, they got it from their superstar. But still, nobody scored 17 on these Buckeyes, which just an amazing number. As for Ohio State and the offensive game plan, this is probably another very long conversation, and I'm now at 32 minutes. So I think I'll save that one for part 2. But as far as everything goes and the perspective and where we're headed, you know, a lot of things to work on. I think that Ryan Day is excellent. He's shown us he's excellent after these losses and how they address things. There are some things on the offensive side of the ball I don't think will be addressed, which bums me out. They could still win in spite of them, and they could still win a national championship. But that'll be it for this one, as I've got some things to do, and then I got to get rolling. I do appreciate you guys so much for joining me. Stay tuned. We'll get another one out tomorrow. Part 2 of the Indiana game, the offensive side of the ball, which probably deserves its own episode anyway. So appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Juck and Bucks out.